Let's get started making our ramen. So I've got my thighs here that I have deboned and I still have the skin on them. And I've got my seasoning that I'm going to be putting on here. And this is my Shichimi Togarashi seasoning. This is great on chicken, pork, beef, whatever you want to use it for. Definitely check out that link in the description box and try the seasoning. It's got a really nice smell to it. And I know you're going to love this recipe. So give this a try. Check out that link on how this is made. So I've got my chicken thighs here for my ramen, and I do have those deboned. And I'm going to go ahead and put the seasoning on these so they can be setting aside and resting. So I'm going to start with the underside here and just put some seasoning on it and use your hand. Just kind of give that a good spread around. And if you get too much on it, that's okay, because you can turn it over and put it on the back and just keep moving on. So we're going to put some on the back of our chicken thighs also. Use your fingers in that and go ahead and grab another one, and we're going to do all of these. And I'm going to set these to the side and let these marinate for about half an hour while I work on my other components of my broth and my mushrooms that I'll be making here in just a few minutes. So continue on with me, stay with me, and we'll come back and we'll move on to our next step. I've got my Dutch oven here and we're ready to go, and I've got my dashi stock that we're going to be using for our ramen today. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link in the description box below on how to make this dashi stock for this ramen. You're going to want to add this to it because this has a really nice smell to it, and so it has those bonita flakes and it has that kombu in it. And so we're going to add this into our Dutch oven right now. And I've got 3 dried shiitake mushrooms. These are little pieces of some, but this is equivalent to about 3 dried shiitake mushrooms. Put your dashi stock in your Dutch oven, add your shiitake mushrooms, let it simmer for 10 minutes, take it off the heat, and we'll come back and we'll start frying our chicken. All right, we are moving on to our next step now. So I've got my cast iron skillet here, and I've got some just regular vegetable oil, and I'm going to put just a good amount in the bottom of that because we're going to use this to fry our chicken in. And I'm going to let this heat up on about a medium heat. I've got it up on high now. I always use that when I start with my cast iron to bring it up to temperature, so I've got a good heat on that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to medium. And I've got my chicken here that I seasoned earlier with my seasoning, and it's been resting here for about half an hour. I wanted that seasoning to get really incorporated into that chicken to get a nice flavor to it, because nothing like the good seasoning on anything when you're trying to cook anything. Season it ahead instead of trying to do it afterwards. It's a little bit easier. All right, I can tell by looking at this that my skillet is hot and ready to go. So I'm going to add my chicken thighs here with skin down. I've probably got room for 3 of these in here. And I'm going to cook these for about 5 to 8 minutes on each side. That way that these are completely done. So I'm going to put the lid on these and let these cook for just a minute, and we'll come back and I'll show you when we get ready to turn them over. All right, I wanted to show you my chicken thighs. I just turned these 2 over, and you can always tell too when you're cooking on a cast iron skillet, when it releases from the pan, you've got a good cook on those. With chicken thighs, we definitely want to make sure we get the internal temperature to a minimum of 165 degrees, and that's according to the USDA. So now that these have been turned over, we're going to let these cook all the way through now, and we'll come back and we'll move on to our next step. My dashi and my mushrooms have been simmering now. I did put the lid on it and let those simmer for that amount of time, and I'm going to go ahead and take the shiitakes out of here and just let my broth sit to the side. So this is my last of my shiitakes I've got in there. You can definitely see what that has added to our dashi stock that we've got there. It added some nice flavor to those. So I've still got my chicken frying over here. I'm going to put this back on the stove and just let it sit over there to rest, and we'll continue to move on to our next step, and I'm going to start cutting up my vegetables. We're moving on to our next step. My chicken is still cooking over here to the side, and I've got some fresh shiitake mushrooms now. This is one of those packs I got in the store, and there's probably about 13 to 14 shiitakes here, and I've gone ahead and cleaned these and removed the stem off of these. And so you just take the one stem, you don't want that in your ramen. So at this point, I'm just going to take these and just kind of cut these up into little pieces. You can have bigger pieces if you like. I kind of like the consistency of these, and we're going to take these once my chicken is done, and we're going to take these and fry these. So I'm going to continue to work on these, and I'll come back and we'll work on some of our other vegetables while our chicken is cooking. All right, now that I've got my shiitakes cut up, you can see what those look like, the consistency of those. I've got those sitting here on my plate. And I've got 3 scallions that I'm going to cut up, and these have been washed and cleaned. So we're just going to cut these in little pieces because this is going to be one of the last things that we put on our ramen when we get ready to dress out our bowl. So I just cut these in little pieces. And if you don't like the green part of it, you can just leave the white part. Or if you like the green part better than the white part, you can definitely do that. So these are just little pieces here, and we'll cut these up for our garnish to our ramen. All right, I am back, and my chicken is done now. I just checked the temperature on that, and I'm going to take that out and set this on this plate. And we're going to let this rest before we cut it up for our ramen. I'll show you what this looks like in just a second. I know it's kind of off camera here. There we go. Those are our chicken thighs. I'm going to set these over here on the stove and just let them rest. That's the best thing to do with chicken. That way that moisture stays in there. If you cut them too early, they get dried out because the moisture runs right out of them. So this has an opportunity for that moisture to stay inside the chicken. When you cut it, you'll get a nice tender piece of chicken thigh here. It's going to be really moist. So stay with me and we'll come back and we'll work on our next vegetable. All right, now that we've got most of our ingredients done, I'm going to talk about my leeks now. So this part of the leek that we want, this part at the top here is really tough. We don't want that into our mixture that we're going to be doing here. Leeks are inherently dirty. So we want to make sure we get these really clean, and I'm going to show you how to do those. So what I want the white part here and just a little bit of this up here, and we're going to take the top of it off. And we're going to save the top of these because you can use these for your stocks. If you've got a vegetable stock you're going to be making, put these in the freezer and pull these out when you get ready to make your vegetable stock. Do not throw these away. Just give them a good rinse, put them in a baggie, and off you go. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take my bottom of my leek here and just cut that off where the root is. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to cut it right down the middle. And the way you can look at these is you can pull them apart and see this one looks fairly clean, but we're going to take it to the sink and we're going to wash it. You can also use a salad spinner is what I normally do with them, and you cut these up really finely. Let's go ahead and do the salad spinner method and I'll show you how to do that. So now that we've got these cut in two, we're just going to take these and we're just going to cut these up probably about 1/8 of an inch. You want them fairly small, and you'll come out with these half little ringlets is what we'll have. So I'm going to continue to cut this up and then we'll move on to our next step. I could definitely feel some of the sand and grit as I went up. And you can see there as I open that up, if you can see here, I hope we can get a good picture with the camera. These are really gritty, sandy on the inside. So I'm going to put these in my salad spinner. I'm going to give my cutting board a wipe down here because I don't want to leave the grit on my board here. So I'll be right back and I'll show you what we're going to do with our salad spinner. All right, so I've got my salad spinner here. I'm just going to transfer my leeks to my salad spinner. I'm going to go get some water and I'll be right back. All right, I did clean up my area here. I washed off my cutting board. I've got my leeks in my salad spinner, and I filled up the leeks here with water in my salad spinner, and you just want to kind of give those a good little rinse through with your hands, and that grit and dirt will fall right through those slats, and you can lift this up, and all the grit and dirt will be in the bottom. So I'm going to give these 3 washes, and I'll come back and we'll move on to our next step. All right, I did give my leeks here a little spin to get a lot of that water off of them. And we've got these ready to go, and you can see how much water come out of that. That's a lot of water on those. We're getting ready to put these in oil and things, and that water might splatter up on you. So just a little safety tip, if you've got a salad spinner, use it. If not, take a paper towel and kind of dry off the leeks. That way you can get rid of a lot of that water, because for safety, we want to make sure that we are safe in the kitchen. I'll be right back. All right, now we've got our garlic here, and I've got 5 fairly good sized pieces here. Actually, I got 4 fairly good sized pieces and 2 smaller ones. So I want 5 good sized pieces of garlic here because I really like that. So to that, we're going to mince that. So we're just going to take the bottom off of one side of it, take the top off. Be careful with this. You're going to take your hand and give it a little press down. That'll break that skin on the outside of it. And with that, we're going to do finely mince on these. So the technique I use for that, I just grab my knife here by the handle. Make sure your fingers are high enough off the blade that will not do it. And then we're just going to do a rocking motion. You put your hand on the top here and just give this garlic a nice fine mince across. And that's how you mince garlic. So I'm going to continue to work on these, and I'll be back in just a minute. We'll move on to our next step. All right, we're moving on to our next step now. We've got our garlic all minced up, and I've got some kimchi here. I've got about 1 cup of kimchi, and I've got about 2 tablespoons of the juice there. And I'm going to cut these into little bite-sized pieces. This looks pretty good on its own, but I'm going to put this on this paper here and just kind of cut it up a little bit more. Just as you can see here, that's just kind of cut that in half. It's just, so you can eat it a little bit better. The way traditional kimchi's made, you might get those long leaves of those Napa cabbage in there, so you definitely don't want to try to pick that up. So this looks fairly small the way it is. Always go through it and just see if you want it just a little bit smaller. We want bite-sized pieces. We're now ready to move on to our next step. I have my fresh shiitake mushrooms here. Again, that was about 13 of those, 14, and I cut those up. So I've got a Dutch oven here, and I've got just a little bit of oil in the bottom of it, and I've got this on high, and I just want to cook these down for about 5 to 8 minutes. And we'll take a look at those once they get done. So I'll show you what they look like when they're done. With my shiitake mushrooms here, I want to cook these until I get like a crispy edge on those. So I've got my canola oil in there, and I've added just a little bit more, and I've just kind of stirred these around until we're going to cook these until we get a nice crispy edge on those. All right, my shiitakes are where I want them, and again, this is up to you how you want those. If you want them cooked down a little bit more, you can. If you don't want them cooked as much, it's completely up to you, because you are the chef in your kitchen, and this is what's nice about making these at home, is you control what goes in it and you control how it looks. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out and put these back into that plate, and we'll move on to our next step. Look at those. Those look really good. All right, so I just pulled the shiitakes out, and I wanted to talk about my ramen. So I did get some fresh ramen in the store, and this has to be refrigerated. These are fresh noodles, and you go buy your pack that you use for yours. These take 2 minutes to prepare. So I've got some water coming to a boil on my stove, and I'll drop these in just a minute. Until then, we'll move on to our next step. All right, now I'm going to put just a little bit more of my vegetable oil in my pot here, just enough to kind of cover the bottom. And then I'm going to take my garlic that I've got, and I'm going to add that in. And that was a fairly large leek that I had. So definitely you can find smaller ones or large ones. I'm just going to put a couple of handfuls in there. I don't want it overpowered with the leek. So that's about what I'm going to do with that. But you can put as much of this in it as you like. If you like a lot of leeks, then definitely if you've got a large leek, you can put the whole thing in. We're going to let this cook now for 2 to 3 minutes. Just be careful with it. I've kind of got mine turned down on low. Garlic has a tendency to want to try to burn, and we definitely don't want that. So keep a watch on those, keep a good stir, and we'll check back here in just a minute, and we'll get ready to add our other ingredient. As that is cooking down, I'm going to add just a few more leeks in it. And that's what's nice about it. You can see what it's doing because it is wilting down quite a bit. And as this continues to cook, it'll continue to work its way down. So just keep a watch on it, and once you look at it, might start at the beginning and look like you've got too many. By the time you get through with it, you've added the whole container on it. So just keep a watch and see what you've got. All right, that looks pretty good now. Now I've got my kimchi, and remember, this is cut up in little bite-sized pieces. We'll add that all in. We'll take our kimchi juice that we've got. We'll add that into it as well. My gochujang, I've got 1/4 teaspoon of that. You can add as much of that as you like. This is a little warm. This is a spicy ramen though, so if you like it really hot, you can definitely add more. My red miso, I've got 3 tablespoons of red miso paste. I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And I've got my 3 tablespoons of my soy sauce. All right, I'm going to give this a good mix through now that I've got everything into it, and we're going to cook this for about 4 or 5 minutes. All right, this has been cooking now on a medium-low for about 4 to 5 minutes now. And I wanted you to see what that looked like. You just basically just want to heat this up to where it is and kind of cook everything together to bring out those flavors and that. So I'm going to go grab my stock, and we're going to put that in. And I'm also going to put my mushrooms in that I just cooked just a few seconds ago in the video. And let's just give that a good toss through. Now I'm going to go grab my dashi stock, and I'll be back to put that in. All right, I've got my dashi stock now. I wanted you to see what that looks like. And remember those dried shiitakes that we cooked in it earlier, we did take those out and just let them sit over there. So it's been sitting until I can get everything else prepared here. So now I want to let this simmer for 10 minutes, and I'm going to put the lid on it. And I've got it down on medium-low right now. We'll keep a watch on it. And while this is simmering for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and put my noodles on, and again, cook those to your package directions on those for you, because every one of those will be different. Again, these are fresh noodles. They're not going to take as long as if you get a dry ramen noodle. All right, we are ready to make our ramen now, and this is completely up to you what you want to put in it. If you have vegetables in the refrigerator that you like, that you want to put in it, you can put carrots in it, you can put bok choy in it. If you wanted anything you wanted to put in it, you can. So I've got my noodles here that I've cooked. All right, now that you've got your noodles in, let's go ahead and add some of our other things. I've got some nori right here that I've cut up in little pieces, and you can put as much of that in as you like. I'm going to put maybe 3 slices here on the side of that. Now we're going to take our chicken that I sliced up earlier. I wanted to show you what that looked like, and we're just going to put that on the side. And then I've got some bean sprouts, and we'll put a few of those in. Again, this is all optional. You put in whatever you like on them. And then I've got my shallots that I cut up earlier. Well, definitely we want to put a few of those in there. And a lot of the ramens that you get might have pork belly in it. This is bacon. This is a thick sliced bacon, and I just cut this up in little bite-sized pieces after I cooked it, and I'm going to put that right on the top. And then I've got my ramen eggs. If you haven't seen the video on how to make my ramen eggs, definitely check that out. I wanted to show you what these look like. These look absolutely incredible, how they turned out. And I just cut a couple of these in two, and I got a little greedy, and I got one out, and I went on and ate it because I just couldn't resist how well they looked. So now we want to check on our broth, and I'm going to go ahead and take the top off of that, and we'll check on it and see what that's doing. I did taste it earlier to see if I needed to add any salt or pepper to it, and I did not need to add anything to it. Definitely you want to check it at that point to see, because a lot of the ingredients with your kombu that you've got will be salty, and your kimchi will have a little bit of salt in it, and some of the other ingredients that you might put in it might be a little salty, so definitely check that before you add anything else to it. But I've got my bowl here, and I'm going to ladle up a little bit of this stock that I've got. That looks really nice, and we're going to grab some of that stock out of there. Put that over our chicken. Get a little bit more of it, and we'll put it right here on the top. And you can put in as much or as little as you like. And then back to our eggs. These are the last things we're going to put on. And look how pretty those are. Just going to put those to the side just like that. And there you go. You have your bowl of ramen and that nice broth on that we can look at that and see what that looks like and tastes like. Let's give that a taste and see how that is. That is delicious. This spicy ramen, you're going to love this recipe. I know you are. So now let's check out some of this chicken and see what that tastes like. Definitely give this recipe a try. I know you're going to love it. And if you like ramen as much as I do, leave me a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got a favorite ramen dish, definitely let me know which kind you like. So many different recipes, so many different ways to make it. This is just my take on a ramen. I hope you've been inspired to try to make some ramen if you've never made it before. And if you like this content, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And check out one of these other 2 videos over here, and you might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and give this ramen a taste. I know you're going to love it. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.